Hey y'all, welcome into this edition of Off the Front Porch. It is our weekly podcast exploring the Southern experience. My name is Tony Ballman, your friendly neighborhood rambling man. Once again, out on the highways and back roads of the American South. And out here, we continue to chase curious personalities, places off the beaten path, and special events that capture the essence of what it means to be uniquely Southern. Now, last week you might have tagged along on my visit here to Macon, Georgia, the central Georgia city, which touts itself as the town where soul lives. But it was here in 1969 that the seeds were sown for a uniquely American and unrepentantly Southern fried brand of music, lovingly called Southern Rock. The cradle of Southern Rock was a place called Capricorn. Now, here in Macon, the seminal creators of Southern Rock gathered to weave their musical spells and to make history. But like so many historical places, time and changing tastes saw Capricorn fall out of favor with musicians and sadly fall into disrepair. That is until a few years ago. Brilliant and adventurous souls at Mercer University here in Macon saw a vision for a Capricorn reborn, a place where innovative and authentic musicians and songwriters could gather in the model of the Allman Brothers and would find an inviting incubator for their talents and passion. Mercer Music at Capricorn was born. And so we are here today in the revitalized Capricorn Sound Studios and Museum, and I will tell you the hair is standing up on the back of my neck. And here to take us into the story of this musical renaissance on Off the Front Porch is Mercer University's Larry BRUMLEY. We call him the Capricorn Man, but your official title is Senior Counsel to the President.
That's great. Great to be with you, Tony.
Good to see you again. It was a few years ago that I actually came down here back when I was on radio full time, and I had the opportunity to come in and broadcast from this space when it was but a glimmer in the eye of someone to be what this is today. And I walk into this place for the first time in probably 7 years, at least, and I'm blown away, Larry, at what you have here at Capricorn Sound Studios.
Well, thank you. We spent 5 years planning and executing the reopening of Capricorn, and it was quite an experience. I've heard lots of stories and learned a lot about Capricorn's history in the process.
Well, and when you read about the history of Capricorn and you take it all the way back to I guess I was right, 69 or something like right. that, and it was actually created the vision came as a vehicle for Otis Redding. And then, of course, he was sadly killed in the plane crash. Otis Redding, of course, being a product of the Macon area here, so much a part of the fabric of the music down here. And then it became a whole other thing altogether.
Well, that's right. In 1967, Phil Walden and Otis Redding and Phil's brother Alan Walden had a company called Redding, Walden.
Right.
And they bought the first building in this complex in 1967 with the purpose of putting a studio in so that Otis wouldn't have to go to Memphis to record. And then tragically, Otis died in the plane crash just a few months after they purchased the building. And so Phil was devastated, and he lost his business partner and friend, and he kind of kept working on it. And then in 1969, he heard about a session musician over in Muscle Shoals named Dwayne Allman. And so he bought Dwayne Allman's contract out from Fame Studios and moved him to Macon and said, put together a band. That started Capricorn.
And again, I call it the cradle of Southern rock. And when you talk about names that are in the pantheon of that musical genre, whatever it is, whether it's an accurate description of a musical genre or whether it's just a regional, source of pride, Dwayne Allman is right there. I mean, he is part of that Mount Rushmore of music of that particular genre.
He is, and he got to Macon and called his brother Greg, who was out in California at the time, and told him to get to Macon. They were going to put together a band, and they did, which became the Allman Brothers Band. And then everything flowed from that for about 10 years. It was then, Marshall Tucker Band, Wet Willie, all these Southern rock bands, Elvin Bishop recorded here, and then Capricorn went bankrupt in 79, 80. And the building then fell into foreclosure and changed hands a number of times over the years. until Mercer acquired it in 2015 and began the process of restoring it.
It's we'll talk about that period from 69 all the way up until 79, 80. That really was I think the salad years, as it were, for Southern rock. I mean, you had all of these bands coming out of the American South and were putting their imprint on American music. Talk about the Allman Brothers. Talk about Marshall Tucker Band. Talk about Molly Hatchet and these other bands that were coming out of here. And so many of them landed here in this space right here on what's now Martin Luther King Boulevard in Macon.
That's right. They were drawn. Phil Walden was quite a force of nature, and he had a very persuasive way with people.
And impresario, as it were.
He was. He was a full on personality, and he really persuaded a number of artists to come here to Macon and record at Capricorn, and many of them ended up on the Capricorn Records label. Not all of them. Charlie Daniels Band recorded a number of albums here. They weren't on the Capricorn label, but they recorded in the studio. So this was the epicenter of Southern rock. Now, Phil Walden and Greg Allman did not like that term Southern rock.
They did not.
They did not. They thought it was redundant as rock. They did not like that term, but they couldn't control it. It got put on that genre of music, and it has stuck ever since.
Yeah, it has, and I think that's important too, because when you're in it and you're a creator, you don't want to limit yourself, because if you call it Southern rock, you might actually create a more narrow pathway that I don't want to listen to anything that comes anything south of Connecticut.
Yeah.
So, but I can see that. But at the same time, just the volume of music that came out of this space, the quality of music that came out of this space, you can stack it up against anything that was done at the record plant in New York City or anything out at Capitol Records in L.A.
Oh, yeah. Well, Phil also, in addition to attracting some talented musicians, attracted some very talented producers, like, Paul Hornsby was an early bandmate of Greg Allman and the Allman Joys. But Paul became a producer and produced really all of the Marshall Tucker Band records that were made here and all of the Charlie Daniels records that were made here. And then Johnny Sandlin came over from Alabama, and he was also instrumental in producing a lot of those records. And they were like magnets for these artists to come to record at Capricorn to work with these people like Paul Hornsby and Johnny Sandlin.
Well, and again, we've talked a lot. We talked the first, 8 minutes or so about the history of Capricorn. Let's bring it forward into 2015, and let's talk about the space. I was in this space before what has happened here, to my absolute delight and amazement. When Mercer walked into this place, when folks at Mercer walked into this place, now let me start off first of all. Was this your brainchild, or where did it come from?
No, and it's a long story, Tony, but Mercer has owned this building twice, actually.
Okay.
The first time Mercer acquired this building in 1999, Kirby Godsey was president of Mercer, and he was very involved in downtown revitalization, and he knew the importance of this building in Capricorn, and so he bought it with plans to do something with it, and he could not, assemble the resources to do that, and he retired as president in 2006, and then Bill Underwood came in as president, and Bill and I came to Mercer with Bill, and Bill was introduced to this building and learned that Mercer owned it, and he was a big Allman Brothers fan. I mean, that was that was the soundtrack of his youth, and so he was very, very he was fascinated with this building. But in his first year as president, he was approached by some developers who offered to buy this building from Mercer, and they had plans to put in a boutique hotel next door and do something with this. And then the Great Recession hit. They went bankrupt. The building went into foreclosure. And then in 2010, the Georgia Trust for Historic Preservation put this building on its annual Places in Peril list. Important historic buildings in Georgia in danger of being lost. And when that happened, the Peyton Anderson Foundation, a local foundation, made a grant to Newtown Macon, the downtown revitalization 501c3, to buy it out of foreclosure and put a new roof on it, stabilize it. So that kind of really began the path back, which was 2010, when Peyton Anderson provided the grant to get the building out of foreclosure and to start, stabilizing the building. It took 5 years then for Mercer to get re-involved.
I gotta say that's got to be kind of fortuitous, as a matter of fact, that this thing did go into foreclosure, that it did go in, that the recession hit and all of those things, because this, as it is now, probably would not exist if that vision had come through.
It would not have. In fact, Tony, I would say within 2 to 3 years, in 2010, the building was deteriorating rapidly, and I would say probably within 2 to 3 years it would have fallen in on itself. It was in such bad shape, except for the studio. The room where they made that music was miraculously preserved. We don't know why or how.
It was the ghost.
The rest of the building was falling down around it, but that room was like you walked into it, and it's like they had just walked out of it in 1979. And so that was fortuitous. But we then... we had sold the building, and the university had sold the building, and a different developer approached President Underwood with a proposal to buy the building from Newtown Macon and give it back to Mercer. He had plans to build this multi-use development around the building on this block to revitalize this block with apartments and so forth. And he offered to give the building back to the university, and our president said, "Oh no, I got lucky once and sold the building. I'm not going to do that again." But the developer wore him down, and in addition to giving the building back to the university, he made a gift of $350,000 to start the fundraising for it. And so when the developer left the president's office that day, the president walked down to my office and said, "Get this done."
Well, and I'm glad you did, because we are sitting in this magnificent space. So 2015, or whenever it was that you walked into this building, as you said, most of the building was falling down. The Studio A, I guess, was the one that was just kind of sitting there, absolutely almost pristine from 1979. Was the vision immediate, or did it evolve?
It evolved. Initially, what the president told me to do was, he said, one of the main things he wanted to accomplish was he'd been interested in some time in creating a music incubator downtown, a space where musicians could hang out and collaborate and maybe produce the next Allman Brothers or next Otis Redding. And so he had that interest, and we looked at some other buildings downtown to actually do that. And then the Capricorn building came back to us, and so we decided to put it here along with the studio. But then we also developed the idea of putting a museum in to tell the story of Capricorn because of its significance on American music. So we added the museum component, and then we had some additional square footage upstairs that we put in offices and a conference center. So this is now a 20,000 square foot, fully activated building that is in use 24/7.
It's a public entity. Mercer University, has this. Let's talk about what it took to make this what it is today. You said it was about a $4.5 million project?
Initially, the president told me not to spend more than $1.5 million on it.
Okay.
And the original plan was to not equip the studio, to just clean it up and to let, if people wanted to come in and record in it, they could come record and bring their own equipment in and do the recording. Okay. But we weren't going to operate a commercial recording studio. But we have an alum who's a Nashville producer and has been quite successful in Nashville and owned his own studios up there, who convinced us to go ahead and equip it and run it as a commercial studio because he said people will come record there because of its history. And he's been right about that. And so we did fully equip the studio. It's got equipment anybody in the world would record in the studio now. And have. We've had bands from Sweden come record here. But it just grew. It grew from just, clean up the studio, put a music incubator into a museum, offices and conference center, and so it ended up being $4.7 million.
That's an ambitious project. But as I told you before we started, when I look around in this space and I see what it does, what it can do, what it is, what it looks like, and I haven't even stepped over in the museum space, but that looks like a bargain. $4.5 million looks like a bargain for what you have here.
Well, we had a good contractor who we've worked with on a number of projects over the years, and so we benefited from a number of funding sources for this. Georgia has a great historic tax credits program, and so we used historic tax credits to fund 1.2 million of that 4.7. But we also had contributions from more than 300 people who gave anywhere from $10 to $1 million to see this done. So that was some of the easiest money I've ever raised in my career. People just got really animated by this project, and so it all just came together, and we raised all the money we needed to get that $4.7 million done. It is fully paid for.
Well, I will tell you, every dollar looks like it's on the walls and in the spaces here, because we're sitting here in one of your modern production studios. Mm-hmm. This is not the main one.
Right.
The main baby is right behind us, and we just walked through this. This is the one where all the big bands performed. It's got the ISO studio in the corner. It's got the huge board that you showed me over there. But you have the modern equipment here, but as we walk around, as I look around, you've got old reel-to-reels. You've got talk to me about the board that's in Studio A, because when you showed me that, it's another one of those cases where the hair went up on the back of my neck, because being one of these students of like music making, I know that analog sound, there is nothing like it.
Yes.
Not a thing about that. I'm not an anti-digital recording guy by any stretch of the imagination, but there is no sweeter sound than an analog recording.
The year before Greg Allman died, Mercer awarded him an honorary degree. And when he was on campus to receive his honorary degree, President Underwood, this was in 2017, 16, somewhere in there. It was the year before Greg died. But before the ceremony, they were in the robing room, and President Underwood was telling Greg Allman about our plans for Capricorn. And Greg Allman looked him in the eye and basically put his finger in his chest, and he said 2 things. Don't change that room. It's perfect. And number 2, put in analog equipment. And so we followed Greg Allman's advice on that. And so we have an API 2448 board that was custom built for Capricorn that is very similar to the API board that was in the studio in the 70s. And so it has analog, but it also has digital output, so it's the best of both worlds.
So describe for me again now that we're here, now that we've gone past the shell of a building, was about to fall down, never to be reclaimed. Paint the picture for any music fan, music creator that might be listening to this of what Capricorn Sound Studios, Mercer at Capricorn, looks like. Well,
the total complex is a multi-purpose facility. We have the studios. We have 2 studios now. We have the historic Studio A that was miraculously preserved, and then we took the front room of the building that was basically just used for office space and turned it into a second studio that has a different sound to it. It's more conducive to orchestral and choral recording. It's a livelier room.
Wow.
But it's also a multi-purpose room we use for small, intimate concerts for about 80 to 100 people. We call it a listening room, and we have concerts in here usually once a month from acoustic artists that come through. And so we use it for concerts. We use it for recording. We use that room for special events. We have corporate meetings here. We have wedding rehearsal dinners here. So this entire 20,000 square foot complex is constantly buzzing. The incubator, music incubator, the musicians who rent those rooms, we have 12 rehearsal rooms in the incubator. They have 24/7 access to those rooms. So they come and go all times of the day and night, 7 days a week. So this building's got something going on in it just about every hour of every day.
As artists do. I mean, yes. A lot of the most creative work in music is done at 2 o'clock in the morning.
That's right. Yes.
And that you have something like that where artists can have a space, a creative space. This is a living building, Larry.
It is. It is very much a living building.
So what could have been just a museum, and you've got a beautiful museum,
right.
But what could just have been just a shell of what was is now what is and could be.
And from the outset, President Underwood, his vision was, we don't want this to just be about nostalgia. He saw this as an economic development project for Macon.
Yeah.
And this was an opportunity to leverage Macon's rich music heritage to create Macon's music future. And so really it's the blending and leveraging that heritage that people know and admire and value. But it's about the future. It's about it's about producing new artists and launching new artists here so that we can continue that legacy in Macon.
And that is what makes Mercer Music at Capricorn so exciting to me. Because, yeah, I was in this space when it was but a shell of 79, of 69, and that sort of thing. And I felt that, and I felt that history. But now I do feel like I'm in a living space right now. At any given time, a musician could walk in that front door right now and say, hey, I want to be in here and record at that place where the Allman Brothers, where the Marshall Tucker Band have recorded, and you'd make it happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely, and I'm a university administrator. I'm a bureaucrat, but I love music, and I'm not a musician myself. But as I worked on this project, and as I traveled around the country to look at other models like Muscle Shoals Sound Studios, Fame Studios, and Muscle Shoals, Stax Records in Memphis, Sun Records in Memphis, we looked at all of those legendary historic studios that have been brought back as kind of a model for us. But we realized we have something here in Macon, in downtown Macon, with this complex that those other venues do not have.
Yes.
We have proximity, walking distance to live music venues, restaurants, bars, apartments, hotel rooms, all within walking distance of this building. And it's a tremendous asset for Macon to have this here, and for artists to come here and record. But while they're here recording, they can also go do a concert at Grant's Lounge up the street, 2 blocks up the street. So Macon really does have so much to offer to musicians, and we are working to get that word out as much as we can.
And I hope that's the case, because as we talked as we were walking through here, you've had 700 recording sessions thereabout at this particular studio. In my mind, you should already have 3 times that. Because
well, we certainly do have capacity for some more. I mean, we do have some excess capacity that we can fill. But it's, we've been open now for 6 years. There are a lot of recording studios around the country. I mean, there are many, many recording studios. So artists have lots of choices. So, but there's just this unique, not the heritage of this place, but also the way it was built and the kind of music it produced, that there are musicians today who really still want to capture that.
Well, you stole my response, because I would say, there's a lot of studios. I mean, there's studios a half a block from where I live. There's studios over across the river in Augusta, Georgia. There's studios in Macon. None have the history of this place.
That's correct.
I mean, if I'm a musician, I don't care if I'm 22 years old, I don't care if I'm 60 years old or 70 years old still making music. If I have any modicum of understanding of musical history, this is one of those spaces I've got to record in.
Tony, I would say that Capricorn is one of the 20 most legendary recording studios in the country.
I'd say in the world.
Probably in the world, yes. That's probably not a stretch to say that. But Capricorn is that legendary, and I didn't understand until I started working on this project. The Allman Brothers and Otis Redding may have been even more popular in Europe than they were in the U.S. Yeah. We have had so many Europeans come and visit the studio and record here. We've had bands from Sweden come record here. I just did not realize the powerful effect of that music on people that would make them take a pilgrimage all the way across the pond over here to be in this space. And I've seen them walk into that studio on tours, and they have tears running down their cheeks. I saw one young man from Virginia who came in here and was influenced by the Allman Brothers. He walked in that studio and he dropped to his knees and kissed the floor. I mean, that is the power of music on people, and it's just amazing. I had no idea until I started working on this project that music had that kind of power over people.
Larry Brumley, you are in a temple of American music.
Absolutely.
You work, and what you've done, your work, through the sweat of your brow and your planning, and you have revitalized a temple of American music. And I personally, I'm a pretty decent singer. I'm not a musician by any stretch of the imagination. But in my mind, I've already said, I'm going to rent me a couple of days down at Capricorn Studio. And just as a vanity project, I'm going to come down here and record at Capricorn just so I can say, this is my Capricorn record.
Yeah.
I recorded at one of the temples of American music.
Well, and I'll take it one step further using the temple analogy. That room where all that great music was recorded, I call the Holy of Holies. It's the inner sanctum.
It is the inner sanctum.
It is the inner sanctum. It is the room that is just, you walk into it and you can just feel the vibes.
I felt the spirit.
Yeah.
When I was here, what, 7, 8 years ago, or whatever it was, and just 15 minutes ago, when I walked into that space, I felt it.
Yeah.
Because you can't be in this space and not recognize that the ghosts of American music are in this space.
No, and I've watched hundreds of people walk into that room over the last 10 years. And the oohs and the ahs and just the amazement expressed on their faces that they're standing in that room where Ramblin' Man was recorded. Where Can't You See was recorded.
Yeah.
Heard It in a Love Song was recorded.
Yeah.
Keep On Smiling was recorded.
Okay, all right, my hair. We're back to the hair. We're back to the hair standing up on the back of my head.
Yeah, so that it has a powerful effect on people.
It really does. Now, all right, let's get into the practical sense. We talked about it. What's it cost to record at Capricorn Studios?
It's basic rate of $800 to $1,200 a day, depending on which studio you're using and whether you are using our engineer or not. So
you got fast hands as part of that project. That's the great thing.
Yeah.
You got a fantastic creative team here
that
will take somebody through this process. So that's a bargain in my mind.
We have a great chief engineer here, Rob Evans. Musicians love to work with Rob. He is a wizard behind that sound console. He has mixed Emmy award-winning programs from that board. And so, yes, we have our own house engineer. We've had artists come in and bring their own engineers and producers, but most of them work with Rob.
Right. And that's the thing. It's such a bargain. I mean, for anybody that makes music, there's a lot of these bands that go, and I love them. I got so many musician friends that play on the weekends and go everywhere, and they write original music, but it never goes anywhere. And I would have to say, I would encourage every single one of my artist friends that put it on your bucket list to drive to Macon, Georgia, rent a couple of days in the studio. If you know anything but record 2 songs.
For less than $2,500, you can walk out with music that was recorded in one of the most renowned recording studios in the world.
That's very exciting for someone who loves music. It's for someone who loves music history as much as I do. Being in this space, seeing what has evolved here, it is an incredible experience. And I am so privileged to be back here again. I thank you for allowing me to come here and talk with you about it. And tell folks how they can get more information about Mercer Music at Capricorn.
Just go to CapricornSoundStudios.com.
Check it out. And you got all the information there. And the museum is open just on Fridays and Saturdays?
The museum is open Wednesday through Sunday.
Okay, all right.
Wednesday, Thursday, it's open from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. On Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we do studio tours at 10 a.m.
That's what I was saying. The tours, yeah.
The studio tours are Friday, Saturday, Sunday at 10 a.m. And the museum is open until 5 p.m. on Saturday and 3 p.m. on Sunday.
Wow.
All those hours are on our studio website.
And, of course, if you listened to last week's show and you've already thought, I didn't even think I'm going to Macon for anything, and now you're sold on it, well, if you're coming to Macon, you absolutely have to come to the epicenter. We're going to take the southern tag out. You have to come to the epicenter of rock in America, Capricorn Studios, and check this thing out.
Absolutely. We'd love to have you.
This is a fan. Larry BRUMLEY, thank you so much. Mercer University's man on the scene. You got to take one more thing. Yeah. Knowing what it was and seeing what it is now, do you walk into this place every day and just have the big head about what you've accomplished? Because I know I would. I'd be strutting like a Bantam rooster, going, "Yeah, that's my spot."
Hopefully, I don't have a big head about it, but I am very grateful for the opportunity to have worked on this project, and I do reflect at times on how amazing it is we pulled this off.
Dude, you have brought the pyramids out of the sand here at Capricorn. That's amazing.
It is. And so I'm very proud of this place, and I'm very proud of what it means for Macon. And I just want to see more people come and visit Macon and appreciate how important the city is to American and really international music.
No question about it. Larry BRUMLEY from Mercer University, who has brought us back to Capricorn Sound Studios and Museum in Macon, Georgia. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram. And come on down. We'll rent the studio. We'll come and we'll do a live version of this one day. But, thank you, Larry.
Thank you, Tony.
All right, we'll check it back out on the road next week here on Off the Front Porch. Thanks for listening.